Hey guys and gals, Wanderer here. So I got something a little bit different today. This video is going to kind of go over some of the basic editing techniques and how I do my videos in Premiere Pro, because I see a lot of Let's Play videos that just really are not, in my opinion, kind of up to snuff. They're just not all that great, and I get a lot of questions on my videos how I edit them. I'm not saying I'm some amazing video editor. I don't think I am, but I think I have, after a couple hundred videos, I think I have the basic technique down pretty well, and I wanted to kind of share that knowledge because I like doing these kind of videos. I like sharing this kind of stuff with people. So when I record a video, I will open up Audacity. In fact, it's going right now, right here, as I'm talking. You're actually seeing my speech patterns on Audacity right there. And what I do is I will start recording, and then I will say recording starting now. And when I say now, I will start the actual recording. I've got my files assembled here in Premiere Pro. This is Adobe Premiere Pro CC 2017. It's all paid for and licensed and everything. I do pay for my software. You should too. Don't go and try to pirate this. But yeah, so I drag everything in here. You have to wait a while for these files for the audio to be conformed to what Premiere Pro likes. It depends how long the stuff is, but it takes a while. But yeah, you want to kind of just get all your stuff assembled in here in your project, and then just go, and while it's doing its thing, you'll see a little bar down here as it kind of converts the audio to a usable source. Just go get a cup of tea or something while you're doing that. So okay, I've got all the footage that I'm going to use for. This is actually episode number 44, although it says 45 here because 44 actually was abandoned due to some issues. I'll explain that in my next Let's Play, why it was abandoned. It has to do with frame rate and audio desync issues. But, so the first thing you want to do is go ahead and drag your audio down into your timeline here. So I put it on my lower tier here. So this is my audio from the entire session. You can see it's about 1.5 hours long for that episode. And I'm going to go to the first bit of actual where I say anything here, and you can see it's me saying recording starting now. Right there, we'll cut it, we'll stop. That is my cue to insert my first piece of recording here. So I sort by date. Should be, it's actually not this one, it's a different one, and the reason for that I'll explain later, but it's actually this one. This was a previous episode's recording. I'm using some of that footage, but this is the first one in reality for me, so I'm going to go ahead and drag this over, and we'll just line that right up. It snaps right to your current point, and now I have my game video and audio synced with my commentary audio. So there's the first one. We're going to go to the second one here as well. Let's find it. Starting now. Go ahead and do that. You just kind of make sure that this lines up with an area where you've stopped talking. I intentionally try to stay quiet during periods where the recording isn't going. That way I know for sure that I have it lined up correctly. Recording starting now. There's the next one. Let's go ahead and get that. And should be one more here. Recording starting now. Okay, and that's all of our video and audio lined up correctly. So that's the very basics of it. We got everything in there. As well, I put in an intro on all my videos. So let me grab all of this. You can just highlight stuff and click and drag it just like you would things in Windows. It's very intuitive. I'm going to grab my intro here and put that in. Now my intro is a little bit loud compared to the rest of the video, typically. If you look at, it's actually capping out a bit. I didn't realize this whenever I exported it, but it was actually capping out on the audio. You never want to go above -3, and really -6 is about good. So I'm going to go ahead and drag the volume on this down, or the gain on this down a little bit, and we want it to be about -3. But around there's close enough. So there's my video intro. I'll go ahead and when you want to get rid of space in here, you just left click and then you right click and then ripple delete. and that will delete all the white space between several things. So, alright, so now we have to go in here and actually get the video started. So we're going to go in here and make a cut, and to cut in Premiere Pro, I guess I should go over these key bindings. It's so, guys, it's like so natural to me after like doing several hundred Let's Play videos. Switching between these tools and stuff is so natural. It's like subconscious. We're going to cut this, and to cut, you're using the razor tool, which is right over here. But I use the key binding of C, and when you do that, it turns it to this trimming or this razor tool here. And if you want to switch back to your regular selector tool, you want to hit V. So your left hand on your keyboard is going to be right over here at C and V, switching between those quite a bit. And I actually have my delete button set up to X, so that when I select everything here, I can just hit X and it deletes everything. So X, C, and V are like my main tools. They're right there. And I use the Control button and the Alt button as well quite a bit, as well as Shift. So like all of my keybinds that I use for the majority of the editing process are like right there on the bottom left of my keyboard. It's very comfortable, very easy to use, but that is how you go about that. So now we've got this giant space here, of course. Now you could drag all this over manually, but that's a pain in the butt. So we'll left click once to highlight this area, right click, and ripple delete. But we're not going to do it yet. Before we do that, we're zooming in here, and by the way I'm zooming in, this is how I kind of get around on the timeline, right? So you could like do this, or you could use the keybinds for that. I actually prefer, I don't know, maybe this is wrong, but the way I kind of learned to do it is holding down Alt on your keyboard and then using your mouse wheel to scroll out will scroll out of your timeline. It'll give you more on your screen, and then holding down Alt and rolling the mouse wheel forward will actually bring you closer into your timeline so you can see things more clearly. You can go all the way into where you're going by each individual frame. And that's actually pretty useful whenever you have to line up audio that is desynced. But anyway, to start the video out, the actual part of the video here, because the intro back here, this is already like done. I've already spent a lot of time. I spent something like 20 or 30 hours making this little 20-second intro. It was quite a lot of work. But anyway, for the start of the video here, there are a couple of effects that I want to use. And so the effects that I want to use here are going to be dip to black. So if you just type in dip over here, you'll find dip to black under the video transitions and dissolve. Go ahead and drag that on over to your video. And this is a neat little transition. What it does is it fades your video in from black if you put it at the beginning of the timeline, and if you put it at the end, it fades it out. So just put it at the very end here just to show you. I won't keep it here, but just to show you what it does. So at the end, it fades out to black. So pretty cool, right? Nice little transition there. It's one of the only transitions that I actually use, and you don't really want to use transitions. I know a lot of people that are first starting out feel like they have to have transitions between every single cut. You don't. You want audio transitions, yes, but you don't really want to have video transitions, not very often at least. Okay, so next thing I'm going to do, should have done this before I even did anything else, I have a preset here for a hard limiter, and what a hard limiter does is it prevents your audio gain from going above a certain amount. Let me go ahead and drag this over. So we're going to use this hard limiter on my commentary here. You shouldn't ever have to use this on this. You might, but you probably not. Usually the actual game audio doesn't need any kind of editing or anything, but the commentary itself, I am going to use it for that. That will make sure that my vocals never exceed -3. Let me actually go into the effect panel here and show you what this kind of is. It's a preset. If you go into look for hard limiter here, under audio effects you can find hard limiter. Here's the basic one. I have this set up as a preset, so I can just click and drag it. It's pretty much works for me pretty much every time. I don't usually have to edit or anything, but let me show you what the effect is, and we'll go into effects here. If you don't see effects up here under your project panel over here, just go to the effect controls, And right over here is my hard limiter, and I'll go to Edit on Custom Setup. And it's very basic. It's just it was originally a limit to -6 decibels, but I have it set to -3. Sometimes I'll do a different one that's like a -7 or a -6, depending on how loud my commentary is. But usually -3 is fine. If your audio is quiet in parts as well, you may want to do an input boost. So you can boost your input by, maybe 5 to 10 decibels and then put a -3 decibel limit on it. That will kind of make all of your audio kind of the same volume throughout. That way it's not super, super quiet in some parts and then really, really loud in other parts where it's like blaring and hurts people's ears. So yeah, that's the only effect I usually use on my audio. You can do things like adaptive noise reduction and stuff too. I've done that in the past, but it usually makes my voice sound very robotic. Anyway, dip to black. That's where we start at for here. You don't have to mess with any of these effects. Just use a default dip to black. It's totally fine like as it is. As well, we're going to look for the audio gain. Not GAN. Gain. Yes, constant gain. So under audio transitions in crossfade, constant gain. Drag that on over to here. We'll use this on both our commentary as well as our regular game as well, because you want this nice fade-in effect whenever you start the video. See how nice and smooth that is? Way better than just being jarring, like, boom, here's the video. It's really loud all of a sudden, stuff is there. It's not so abrupt. You want to ease your viewers into that video. You want to line this up about with where your commentary starts with a little bit of time before it. Hey survivors. That's totally fine right there. That's what we're going to go with. So now that's done. We're going to go ahead and left click in here and ripple delete. And now we've got the intro set up. So see how this is limited? It won't go above -3. I see a problem here as well. So my new video is going to be in 1080p, and this intro is actually in 1440p. I actually switched over because of an issue I was having with frame rates and audio desync, so I downgraded my video resolution in-game to 1080p versus being 1440p. But, so we have to kind of shrink this down, so we get a picture of it where it says Fallout 4 Frost here. That all should be within the borders here, so you double click on this, and let's go ahead and drag this on over to make it just about correct. I think there's a key binding you can actually use to like make this snap to it, but whatever, it's fine. Good enough. You notice a little bit of crackling there? That happens sometimes if you're doing playback in a preview. You won't hear it on the export. It's not going to be there, so don't worry about it. So okay, there is our intro and then our beginning here. Talking about stuff, blah, blah, blah. So when it comes to actually editing your actual video here, the meat of what you do here, the most important thing is your commentary. And actually, the beginning of this video, I was just kind of wandering around, just kind of walking around in the game for a while. What I'm going to actually do, because I was explaining some stuff, I was explaining why basically there's some time elapsed between the last video and this video, and the reason why I didn't make a video out of my footage that I had from that period because there were some desyncing issues and stuff. I'm going to actually insert that video in here and have that going while I'm talking about this stuff, because I'm just kind of aimlessly wandering around for the beginning of it, and it would not be fun to watch, but I'm not going to worry about that right now. Right now I'm just going to worry about editing the actual audio here. I'll leave this up just because why not, but what I'm probably going to do is end up getting rid of all this video and adding in that desynced crappy video from before. I'll probably edit that separately and then add that over top here. But let's go into some of the actual editing. Let me show you what I actually do. Hey survivors, welcome back to Fallout 4 Frost. Wanderer here, and I am just south of the Saugus Ironworks, just a bit north of the Finch Farm. So I'm trying out, make sure Dynavision's not on here. Just gotta make sure. Damn thing is sneaky, I think. So, I'm doing kind of an intro here. I'm talking about what I'm going to be doing in this video, where I am, and explaining some stuff. And if you're doing a long-form video, like, 30-minute videos or so, which is about what I usually do, you probably should kind of talk to your viewers, tell them where you're going, what you're doing, why you're doing it, etc. Just jumping right into it and starting to do stuff is really just disorienting and confusing. People, they don't live in your game world like you do. Okay, you have to talk to them. That's what you're here for. You're kind of their guide through these videos, right? So first things first, I was talking about a mod called Dynavision for Fallout 4, and I don't think I actually want this portion of the video. So I'm going to cut out before I say Finch Farm. Did a cut there. So I hit C to get the razor tool here. Held down Shift. If you just do a regular cut, it just cuts one portion, one part of your composite video at a time. If you hold Shift, it turns into this big razor that does the whole thing all at once. So yeah, that's what you want to do. I'm not going to actually leave these in. If you want to undo what you've done, you can do a Control and Z, and that will go backwards in time, one step at a time. So we've got our cut in here. Let's go back to our regular selector tool. Again, that is the V key. Get used to using those, guys. C and V, at the very least. You're going to be using those a lot. So I talk about Dynavision here for a while. Yeah, I disabled it. Okay. Now it's disabled. Dynavision is disabled. Okay, so we're going to skip that whole little section there. We're just going to get rid of that. Going to cut. Did the C, Shift, and cut. Switch back to V here. No, not F. V. What did I even do? I don't know. Okay, we're back. Now just grab this whole thing and hit the X key, or normally be the delete key, to delete all of it. Okay, so now we got that whole thing deleted. Bam, it's done. That's our first jump cut of the Finch Farm. So now between these two transitions here, or whatever, this between these jump cuts, you don't want to use any kind of video transition in here. Now, I used to use things like crossfade transition and stuff. Don't do that, guys. Don't do it. I know that when you're first starting out, it feels like you have to have a transition between everything. You don't. Jump cuts for video are 100% okay. People expect them. They're used to them. We see them all the time in movies, so we are very trained to see them and not really be jarred or affected by them. However, you don't want jarring audio between your two pieces of video here. So what I'm going to do is actually insert a constant gain between these two. Okay, so every jump cut that we have here, there will be no transition between the jumps in the video, but between the audio, you want to have this constant gain. Now, I don't usually find it necessary to do a constant gain between my commentary. In fact, it can screw things up sometimes, especially if you're doing a very precise cut right before you say another word or something. But I'll leave that up to you. You can if you want. So there's a little transition here. The Finch Farm. So I'm trying out something a bit different. Okay, so that's the first jump cut's done. Now, there are times when you would want to use a transition, and I'm just going to kind of talk about that real quick and explain it. So if a long period of time passes, say I'm doing something and I say, okay guys, I'm going to go and loot through this area real quick. I've killed everyone, but I need to loot everything. It's going to be boring, so I'm going to go ahead and do that off screen. When you start recording again, you'll want to have like some kind of wipe that kind of denotes that time has passed, you've done things off screen, you've skipped those things to make the video more palatable for the viewer, so they can skip that stuff as well. They don't have to sit and watch everything. And we're in a new place now. And of course, you'd want to talk about that when you start. You'd want to say, okay guys, all done with looting, here we go, blah blah blah, etc. For that, I typically use something called the clock wipe. Just use that. If you do a clock wipe in an area, it just gives you this. So, simple, quick, lets people know that time has passed. It works for me. You can use whatever transition you want, but that one seems to be the best for me. think about Star Wars. Okay, it's a good way to think about videos. So in Star Wars, you've got jump cuts all the time, but whenever they transition from one scene to the next, like one setting to the next, like a different planet, or you're following a different character's story arc, or something like that, they'll do a screen wipe, and a lot of times a little bit of music over that to kind of show the audience that, hey, we're going to a different planet now, a different story arc, or some time has passed, whatever. It's a way of letting the audience know what's happening without, like, actually telling them what's happening, if that makes sense. So now we need to go through this whole thing and trim out the parts that we don't want, where I'm talking about stuff. It's a very tedious process, and there are parts where, like right here, I was obviously stumbling over my words. See what I was saying? Well, it was rather, well, the ENB itself worked fine, but the recording... This whole section's really sloppy and messy. I was apparently having a brain fart, and I need to go ahead and kind of get rid of some of this stuff. So let's try to clean this up a little bit. It was rather, well... Okay, so right here I see two things I can get rid of. The and the clearing my throat there. I was having issues with my voice that morning, so I'm going to actually just cut the audio commentary only here. So what I'm going to cut out is from here to about here. I'm going to cut out that again, that's C for the cutting or razor tool, V for the selector tool. And we'll just, let's see, this is... Okay, so we're gonna keep the well, and we're gonna keep this. We're gonna use that well as kind of a transition between these two sort of thoughts here. Just get rid of that. Just grabbing over here. Not sure what was always over here, but we'll see. Whoops, no. See how this stuff snaps? It'll always snap as long as you have this magnet snapping thing on. If you turn it off, it no longer snaps properly. You want to have that on for the most part. Go ahead and bring that together. Select everything and bring it all together over here. Let's see how that sounds when it's all together. It's rather, well, the ENB itself worked fine, but the recording, I was getting pretty low FPS. I was only getting about... Okay, so that's good. So now I'd have to go through here and add the rest of this stuff and pull it over, or I could just do it like this and just cut out this middle point here, cut out this chunk of video, and do it like that. It worked very well. It was rather, well, the ENB itself worked fine. It's going to be a judgment call on your part whether or not you want to cut the video. What I will say, though, about cutting video is that you want to cut video as little as possible. Don't just cut your video every time that you cut your audio. Only cut your video when you absolutely have to. So your audio has to go along with what your video is talking about, and in this case I don't care about the video at all. It's not really important because I'm going to replace all this video, but normally you would want to make sure that your commentary matches up with what's going on screen. So when you decide to move around your audio like this and do cuts and stuff, just be careful to make sure that what you're talking about makes sense with what's going on screen. And as well, you want as few of these jump cuts as possible. I mean, don't be afraid to make jump cuts, but you don't want to just be like every time there's a gap or you miss a word or can't think of a word or whatever, don't just automatically make a cut there every single time, because you'll have a video with like 10 million cuts and it'll be very, very jarring to watch for the audience. An occasional cut is fine, but for the most part, just edit your audio and only do jump cuts when absolutely necessary to kind of make the video make sense with the commentary, if that makes sense to you. So one other thing here, I'm going to make a couple of more cuts here, well, just to kind of show you what I'm talking about. Let's say we just chop this video up here, got rid of some big parts here. And we were going through here and we got rid of a whole bunch of stuff. Let me go through and rip or delete stuff. So now we've got this nice chunk of edited video here. Of course, my finished video would be a lot more cuts than this, but let's say at this point, you know, you've been going through and adding the gain between each one. You don't have to do that. There's a couple ways you can add transitions. Like, for example, you can right-click here and apply default transition. I'm not sure how you set the default transition anymore. Here we go. So if you type in the thing you want here and pull it up, right-click on it and set selected as default transition. So I have under audio transitions and crossfade, constant gain selected as my default transition. If you're in Premiere Pro, that's probably what you want to do. What you can do once you have all of your stuff cut here, so you've been going through here and doing cutting stuff and you realize, oh, I need audio transitions between these. Well, never fear. Just highlight all of this and go up to sequence and apply audio transition. Bam. Now you've got audio transition between each and every one. Easy peasy. In fact, I wouldn't say to put transitions in manually between them. Just wait till the end, highlight everything, do that. Just don't forget, otherwise you'll have really jarring audio and it'll be really noticeable. I've done that a couple times and nobody said anything, but it was very apparent and it definitely lowered the video quality. So, that's pretty much it. As far as other effects and stuff, there are like all kinds of effects here, guys. I mean, there's just tons and tons of things you can do. But for basic Let's Plays, you just want to do a couple of them. You just need a couple things. And at the very end of the video here, you'd want to put another depth to black over here. And rather than constant gain, you want to do exponential fade. Again, that's under audio transitions and crossfade. Do an exponential fade. I'll trim this up here. Have to get your mouse on the very, very edge of that. It can be difficult to get it on there sometimes, but yeah. You've got this nice little fade out. The audio fades out with the video. The audio cue needs to be a little bit quicker than the video. That's why these are all set up to be about correct. So leave their default settings on there and it'll look and sound just fine. So I think that's about it. I'm going to go through and actually edit my entire video now. I may keep recording and just do like a time lapse of it just for fun, and you guys can see all that goes into it, but I won't have any commentary for that. So I'll see you once we're done with the video. I was just gonna say I'm done, but I had to put the intro in here again, and I forgot that I have to scale this intro down. Grab this, please. Thank you. Just want to scale this. I'm gonna have to re-render this intro in proper 1080p so I don't have issues with this. Finally done with the project here. Just wanted to show you the finished result. As you can see, there are many cuts. Some areas, like right here for example, I chopped up the audio to make it more fluid, make more sense with what's going on screen, because I have uhs and ums and I have brain farts and forget what I'm saying and stuff. So those all have to be added in. Just grab a sample of it here. And get consistent 60 FPS, I have to downscale to 1080p. Stuff like that, you know, just trying to make things as quick as possible. I left quite a bit of static in here. Usually I cut these out. Let me trim this real quick. Honestly, if I went through this video again, I would all this footage again, I would find many things to edit. I would go through and edit stuff all over again. I'd change a lot of stuff. But at some point, man, you just have to be like, okay, you know, whatever, it's fine. It's fine, it's okay. Because you can sit here and tweak stuff forever. And for my channel, where I'm going to have, like, maybe 500 people watch this, 700 or so if I'm really lucky, it's just not that big of a deal. They're not going to care about little things. And like, you can't even hear the background noise in these areas because there's so much going on in terms of like game audio. Like, you won't even hear it, but it's just, you know, I'm a perfectionist about these things. I'm gonna stop. I'm putting the mouse down, guys. Putting it down. Pencils down, step away. It's good enough. No one's gonna notice, no one's gonna care. There's the autosave saving it. I had a crash actually and lost like 10 minutes of work, which is really annoying. I had to just like walk away and go get a drink of water and just like brood about that for a bit. Losing progress when you're working on these is so annoying. I don't know what happened, just crashed. Anyway, we're all done. Just to scroll through it real quick to see you know, just how many little cuts and stuff there are. It is rather extensive. You know, we're looking at this on like, this is 4 minutes between here. So in those 4 minutes, there's all these cuts and everything. What is this, 35 minutes long? It's about average. It's about what I aim for, is about a 30 to 40 minute episode. Oh, one final thing. Export settings for this. So normally, when I do 1440p exporting, I would do H.264, and I would do this FO4 preset that I have here, and it's actually, well, normally it would be 2560 by 1440, and this stuff is all like set, like it's 59.94 frame rate, pretty standard 60 FPS, progressive, square pixels, all this stuff is standard. For the bitrate settings, I always use VBR2pass. Basically, VBR2pass goes through and encodes everything twice, and it looks at which one is better, which one fits better, because every time it encodes, it's a little bit different. So the second pass, it'll compare which one is better, and it'll just drop the one that's not as good. You'll get better video quality if you do it like this. So normally I export with a target bit rate of 30 megabits per second, or yeah, I think it's megabits per second, not megabytes, with a maximum of 35. Gives you a little bit of overhead in case there's an area that it can't encode as well as the rest of it. But this time, since we're doing 1080p instead, there's actually a preset we can use, and if you just type in YouTube down here, go down towards the bottom and look for YouTube 1080p, we'll just use that one. This is going for 16 megabits per second. I may up this a little bit, like 18, and 25 should be fine. Gives us some overhead in case there's areas that don't work very well or whatever for encoding, but you don't need to use this maximum render quality. The only time you really want to use this is if you're scaling your videos up. So if I was going from 1080p up to 1440p, I'd want to use that maximum render quality. but you really should never upscale your videos. I don't think you really ever should do that. So this is all fine. Should be good to go. So I'll go ahead and queue this up. Make sure we're... Yeah, looks like everything's all correct here. Let's go ahead and queue it up. Wait for Adobe Media Encoder to load here. Okay, so now it's queued up in Adobe Media Encoder, and whenever I go to bed tonight, I will go ahead and start this queue. Usually takes anywhere from about 2 to 4 hours to process the video, then another 6 to 8 hours on my crappy internet connection to upload it. I only have a 5 megabit upload speed, so it's pretty slow. I'll probably do at least one more episode today, maybe 2 since I have the whole day off. But yeah, I hope this was helpful. Thank you for watching, guys, and if it was helpful, please like and subscribe.